Hey everyone! Welcome back to the channel where we uncover the amazing world of rare and valuable coins. The Lincoln Wheat Steel penny was first introduced in 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and it quickly became one of the most recognized coins in American history. So let's get started. First up, the 1943 Abraham Lincoln Steel penny with an S mint mark is one of the most remarkable and historically significant coins ever produced by the United States Mint. This coin, struck at the San Francisco Mint, represents a unique moment in American history during World War II, when copper was urgently needed for the war effort, and the U.S. Mint was forced to use an alternative metal for coin production. Unlike the traditional copper Lincoln cents, the 1943 pennies were made of steel coated with zinc, giving them a distinctive silvery appearance and making them the only regular-issue U.S. pennies ever made primarily of steel. On the obverse, front, of your 1943 S, steel penny is the familiar and dignified portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust." To the left of his portrait appears the word Liberty, and to the right, the date 1943 followed by the small S mint mark, signifying that this coin was struck at the San Francisco Mint. The design was created by Victor David Brenner and first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The reverse, back, of the coin carries Brenner's famous wheat ears design, used from 1909 until 1958. Two wheat stalks curve along the edges of the coin, framing the denomination 1 cent and the inscription United States of America. The Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one appears along the top rim. Though simple in design, this layout symbolized America's agricultural roots, unity, and strength, all highly relevant during the wartime years. The 1943 S Lincoln cent was struck from a core of steel and plated with a thin layer of zinc to prevent rusting. Each coin weighs about 2.70 grams, slightly lighter than the traditional copper pennies, 3.11 grams, and has a diameter of 19 millimeters with a plain edge. The bright silvery color of these coins was strikingly different from any other cent ever seen before. However, over time, the zinc coating often wore down, exposing the steel beneath and causing many coins to darken or develop rust spots. Your coin is described as being in fine condition with some scratches, which means it circulated for a period of time but still retains a good amount of detail. In this grade, Lincoln's portrait remains visible with moderate wear on the high points, and the inscriptions are clear and fully legible. The wheat stalks on the reverse are moderately worn, but still show definition. The scratches and surface marks are typical for steel cents, as their hard metal composition made them prone to abrasions during circulation. Some dirt or dull gray toning might also appear, which is normal for a coin of this age and material. The San Francisco Mint produced around 191 million 1943 S steel cents, making them somewhat scarcer than the Philadelphia or Denver issues, though still relatively common overall. Because of the large mintage, these coins are widely available, but their unique composition and historical context make them extremely popular among collectors and history enthusiasts. In today's collector market, the value of a 1943 S steel penny depends greatly on its condition and the presence of any rust or corrosion. In good to fine condition, such as your coin, the value typically ranges between $100 and $250. In very fine to extremely fine condition, the coin can be worth $300 to $400, while uncirculated examples with bright original luster can sell for $1 to $3 or more. Brilliant mint state coins certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC can bring $400 to $500 depending on how clean and bright the surfaces are. Given your coin's fine condition with scratches, A fair market estimate in today's market is around $0.15 to $0.25. It's worth noting that some counterfeit and altered coins have circulated over the years, often made by coating regular copper pennies to look like steel, or altering 1948 copper cents to appear as 1943 errors. However, your 1943 steel penny is a genuine wartime issue, a legitimate and fascinating piece of American numismatic history. Although its monetary value is modest, its historical significance is extraordinary. The 1943 steel penny tells the story of America's wartime sacrifice and ingenuity. During World War II, the U.S. government redirected millions of pounds of copper for ammunition, wiring, and military equipment. To conserve this crucial resource, the mint temporarily switched to steel, creating one of the most distinctive coins ever made. The experiment lasted just 1 year. As the steel cents caused practical issues, they rusted easily and were often mistaken for dimes, leading the mint to return to copper in 1944. Your coin, even with its scratches and discoloration, carries the legacy of that era. It is a silent witness to a time when every American contributed to the war effort, and even small items like pennies reflected the country's determination and resourcefulness. To preserve your 1943 ES steel penny, avoid cleaning it, as cleaning can scratch the surface further or remove the protective zinc layer. Handle it gently by the edges and store it in a dry, acid-free coin holder or plastic flip to prevent rust. If possible, keep it in a low-humidity environment to protect the steel core from corrosion. First up, the 1957 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with the D mint mark is one of the last classic wheat cents ever made. And even though it's a common coin, it still holds a special place in American coin history. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, as shown by the small D mark beneath the date on the front side. For collectors, coins from this final decade of the wheat penny series have a nostalgic charm, representing the end of an era before the design changed to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. The wheat penny design, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner, had been in circulation since 1909. It features the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and 2 simple wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the back. Even after almost half a century of production, this design remained a favorite among the American public. The 1957 D issue continued that legacy, a coin that many older Americans still remember using in everyday purchases. The Denver Mint struck an enormous number of these coins, more than 1 billion in total that year, which makes the 1957 D penny one of the more common wheat cents today. Because of that high mintage, it's easy to find, but that doesn't mean it has no value. For coin collectors, even common dates like this are essential pieces of history. Many people start their coin collecting journeys with simple wheat pennies, like the 1957 T, found in pocket change, coin jars, or inherited collections. Now let's talk about your coin's condition. You mentioned it is in damaged condition with some scratches, which means it shows heavy signs of circulation and possibly surface marks or corrosion. In grading terms, a damaged coin is below the standard good or fine grade, since damage lowers collector appeal. But it still has some value, especially as an authentic historical piece. For a 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny in this kind of condition, the value in today's market is generally around 2 to 5 cents, depending on the extent of the wear and damage. In better condition, such as fine or extremely fine, the coin might sell for 10 to 20 cents. If the coin is in uncirculated condition, showing no wear and keeping its original red copper luster, collectors are often willing to pay $1 to $5, and certified mint state examples graded MS-65 or higher can reach $10 to $20 or even more for those with strong color and perfect surfaces. The highest quality examples in top mint state red condition have sold for over $100 at auction. But those are exceptional pieces that have been carefully preserved since the day they were minted. It's also worth remembering that the 1957 D wheat penny was produced during a time of economic growth in post-war America. It was a coin used in diners, gas stations, and candy shops, a symbol of a simpler time. Millions of these pennies passed through the hands of ordinary Americans, making them small but meaningful pieces of shared history. Even a damaged one connects us to that story. For collectors today, the 1957 D penny isn't rare, but it's popular because it's part of the final years of the Wheat series. When people complete their Lincoln cent collections, they always include the 1957 D as one of the closing dates before the design change. It's a coin that marks the transition between two eras. The Wheat back design and the new Lincoln Memorial reverse that began in 1959. If you have a 1957 D penny with scratches or damage, you might not be sitting on a fortune, but you do have a real collectible coin that represents over 6 decades of history. Many hobbyists keep coins like this in albums or use them for teaching young collectors about mint marks, history, and coin preservation. It's a perfect example of how even a small, low-value coin can tell a big story. So next time you hold your 1957 D wheat penny, take a moment to appreciate the journey it's been through. From the Denver mint presses in the 1950s to your hands today. It may have scratches, it may be worn, but it still carries the image of one of America's greatest presidents and a legacy that continues to inspire coin enthusiasts around the world. Next up are 1943. Abraham Lincoln steel penny without a mint mark is one of the most unique and historically significant coins ever struck by the United States Mint. Produced at the Philadelphia Mint, this coin was part of a special one-year issue made during World War II, when copper, the usual metal for pennies, was urgently needed for the war effort to produce ammunition and military equipment. As a result, the Mint made an unprecedented change and produced pennies out of steel coated with zinc, giving them a distinctive silver-gray color that immediately stood out from traditional copper cents. The 1943 Lincoln cent is composed of a steel core plated with zinc, giving it a total weight of about 2.70 grams, noticeably lighter than traditional copper cents, which weigh 3.11 grams. The coin measures 19 tien fine, 19 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge. When first struck, these coins had a bright, shiny appearance similar to a dime. But over time, many have lost their original luster due to oxidation or exposure to moisture. Some have darkened or developed small rust spots, as steel is prone to corrosion once the zinc coating wears off. Your coin is described as being in very fine condition with some scratches, which means that it shows moderate wear from circulation, but still retains strong details. In this grade, Lincoln's facial features and hair remain visible, though slightly worn. The lettering and date are bold and fully legible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are moderately worn but still show clear outlines, and the inscriptions remain distinct. The scratches you mention are normal for circulated coins, especially for steel cents, which were more susceptible to surface marks due to their hard metal composition. The Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous number of these coins, around 684 million in total, making the 1943 steel penny one of the most widely distributed coins in U.S. history. Because of this large mintage, they are not considered rare in circulated condition, but they are still very popular among collectors because of their unique metal composition and historical context. In today's collector market, the value of a 1943 steel penny depends heavily on its condition and whether it has any rust, damage, or unusual toning. In good to fine condition, a typical example sells for $0.10 to $0.20. In very fine condition, like your coin, the value is usually around $0.25 to $0.50. In extremely fine condition, the value can rise to $0.75 to $1.20. Prouters. while uncirculated coins with bright original zinc plating can sell for $1 to $3. Brilliant. High-grade examples certified by grading services such as PCGS or NGC can reach prices of $10 to $25 or more, depending on their surface quality and luster. Based on your description, a 1943 steel penny without a mint mark, in very fine condition with scratches, a fair market value today would be about $0.30 to $0.40, although the monetary value may be modest. The historical value of this coin is exceptional. The 1943 steel penny was produced during a time when the United States was fully engaged in World War II, and every resource was precious. The government decided to conserve copper for wartime production, which meant even the humble penny had to be reimagined. This resulted in one of the most distinctive and collectible coins ever made by the U.S. Mint. The experiment lasted only 1 year, as the steel cents caused confusion in commerce. They were often mistaken for dimes and tended to rust easily. In 1944, the mint returned to using copper, melting down shell casings from the war to produce new pennies. Your coin is a tangible piece of that incredible story. A small, silvery reminder of how a nation united its efforts during one of the most challenging times in history. Every scratch and bit of wear adds to its character, showing that it circulated during an era when people were rationing supplies, supporting troops overseas, and living through historic change. To preserve your 1943 steel penny, it's very important not to clean it. Cleaning can strip away the thin zinc coating and expose the steel core underneath, causing rust to develop more quickly. Instead, handle the coin gently by its edges to avoid leaving fingerprints, and store it in a dry, non-PVC plastic holder or acid-free paper envelope. Keep it away from humidity, as moisture is the main cause of rusting on these coins. Next up, the 1935 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is a beautiful piece of American history that has now passed through nearly 9 decades of time. Even though it's not a rare coin, it remains one of the classic early 20th century Lincoln cents that many collectors admire. Struck during the Great Depression era, the 1935 penny carries not just monetary value, but also a story of resilience and everyday American life. This coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which is why there is no mint mark under the date. The Philadelphia Mint produced a large number of these coins, more than 245 million in total. That's a big number, and it means the 1935 wheat penny was widely used in circulation all across the country. Still, finding one today in very fine condition, like the one you have, is becoming less common. Many of these coins were heavily worn down from decades of use, so a well-preserved example with clear details is always appreciated by collectors. The obverse side of the coin features the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. His portrait has become one of the most recognized designs in American coinage. The reverse side displays 2 elegant wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent, a simple but powerful design that symbolized America's strength, agriculture, and unity. Your 1935 Lincoln wheat penny is described as being in very fine condition with some scratches. In coin grading terms, very fine means that most of the design is still sharp, though there's moderate wear on the high points. You can still clearly see the lines in Lincoln's hair, his jawline, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. A few light scratches are common for coins of this age and usually don't significantly affect their basic collector value unless they're very deep or distracting. Now let's look at the current market value of the 1935 Lincoln penny. In today's collector market, a coin like yours, without a mint mark, from the Philadelphia Mint, in very fine condition, generally sells for about 25 to 50 cents. If the coin is in extremely fine or about uncirculated condition, prices can climb to $1 or even $2. And if the coin is in uncirculated, mint state condition, showing full red color and no signs of wear. The value can rise sharply, anywhere from $5 to $20, depending on its color and strike quality. Certified high-grade red examples graded MS-66 or MS-67 by major grading services can sell for $100 to $200 or more at auction. Of course, for most circulated examples like yours with some scratches. The real charm isn't in the price, it's in the history. The 1935 penny was minted during the later years of the Great Depression, a time when every penny truly mattered. People used coins like this to buy bread, stamps, or a few candies. It represents a period when the American economy was slowly recovering and every cent carried real value too. Families across the country, collectors, often love coins from the 1930s because they tell stories of perseverance and everyday struggle. The 1935 wheat penny fits right into that history. It's not rare, but it's deeply symbolic of a time when simple things like a penny had great importance. And even though it's over 80 years old, millions of these coins still survive in collections, passed down through generations. If you ever find a 1935 penny with a mint mark D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, those versions can sometimes be slightly scarcer. But in general, all 1935 issues remain affordable for collectors. That makes them a perfect choice for beginners who want to build a complete Lincoln cent collection without spending a fortune. Even with its scratches, your coin in very fine condition has survived decades of handling and circulation, yet it still keeps its beautiful detail and historical charm. It's a great example of how even common-date coins can carry deep meaning. Whether you keep it as part of your personal collection or use it to teach someone about old U.S. coins, it remains a valuable piece of American history. So when you look at your 1935 wheat penny, remember that it's more than just a small copper coin. It's a link to the past, a coin that traveled through the hands of ordinary Americans during one of the most challenging eras in history. Today, it continues to remind us how something as simple as a penny can hold generations of stories within its worn surface. Next up, the 1943 Abraham Lincoln steel penny with a D mint mark is one of the most fascinating and historically important coins ever minted in the United States. Struck at the Denver Mint during the height of World War II, this coin tells a remarkable story of resourcefulness and national sacrifice. That year, the U.S. Mint made a bold and temporary change to the penny's composition, switching from traditional copper to steel coated with zinc to save copper for essential wartime materials such as ammunition, shell casings, and communication equipment. This unique change gave the 1943 penny its distinct silvery appearance, unlike any other Lincoln cent before or since. The 1943 steel penny is made from a steel core plated with zinc, giving it a total weight of about 2.70 grams, compared to the 3.11 grams of earlier copper cents. The coin measures 19 millimeters in diameter and has a plain edge. When newly minted, these coins had a bright, mirror-like surface similar to a dime. But over time, most have dulled or darkened due to wear and oxidation. Because steel is highly reactive once the zinc layer wears away, many surviving coins show spots of rust or discoloration. Your coin is described as being in dirty condition with some scratches, which suggests it has circulated widely and accumulated surface grime and wear over time. In this state, the original shiny coating may have faded or become darkened, and the coin might have small marks or abrasions on its surface. These scratches are typical for steel pennies that have been handled frequently, as the metal was harder and less forgiving than copper. Despite this wear, the main design elements, Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and the date, are likely still visible and clear, though lacking in fine detail. In terms of value, condition plays the most important role in determining what your coin is worth in today's market. The 1943 D steel penny is a very popular collector's item because of its distinctive composition and historical significance, but it is not considered rare due to the high number minted. However, collectors value well-preserved examples or coins with strong detail and minimal rust in average circulated. Condition like yours, dirty with some scratches, the market value today typically ranges from 10 to 20 cents. In fine to very fine condition, the value can rise to around 25 to 40 cents. In extremely fine condition, these coins may fetch 0 to 50 to 1 to 148 centavos, while uncirculated coins with original silvery luster can sell for $2 to $5. High-grade examples certified by grading services such as PCGS or NGC can command even higher prices, sometimes reaching $10 to $20 or more, depending on the quality of the surfaces and strike. Based on your description, dirty, with some scratches and showing clear signs of circulation, a realistic current market value for your 1943 die steel penny would be around 0.15 to $0.25. Although the monetary value of your coin is modest, its historical importance cannot be overstated. The 1943 steel penny is a tangible artifact from one of the most critical periods in American history. When the United States entered World War II, every ounce of copper was needed for the war effort. The decision to use steel instead of copper for 1 year reflected the country's collective spirit of sacrifice and ingenuity. Interestingly, because these coins looked like dimes, many people confused them in daily transactions. The experiment lasted only 1 year, and in 1944, the mint returned to copper, using recycled shell casings from the war to strike new pennies. Some 1943 steel pennies even turned into legendary rarities because of minting errors. For instance, a few were accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets instead of steel, creating the famous 1943 copper penny, one of the rarest and most valuable coins in the world, worth over $100,000 in top condition. Although your 1943 D steel cent is not one of those rare copper errors, it still represents the same moment in history and the same extraordinary circumstances that led to one of the most interesting changes in U.S. coinage. The appearance of your coin, with its darkened tone, scratches, and traces of dirt, actually adds to its historical charm. It may have passed through countless hands during wartime America, used to buy rationed goods, or perhaps tucked away as a keepsake when people realized it looked different from ordinary pennies. Each mark and scratch tells a story of a time when the country was united in effort and sacrifice. If you wish to preserve your coin, avoid cleaning it, as cleaning can easily damage the zinc coating and expose the steel underneath, which can cause rust to spread more quickly. Instead, gently handle it by the edges and store it in a dry, acid-free holder or coin flip to protect it from moisture. Keeping it in a stable, low-humidity environment will help prevent further oxidation. Next up, the 1957 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with a D mint mark is a beautiful example of the last years of the beloved wheat cent design that ran from 1909 to 1958. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint, and it carries the small D mint mark just below the date on the obverse side. Even though the 1957 D penny is common in circulation, it holds both historical and sentimental value among collectors and coin enthusiasts, especially when found in extra-fine condition like yours. The 1957 D wheat penny is composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a warm reddish-brown tone. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge. Because it is made primarily of copper, it naturally develops a rich brown or reddish patina over time. Many examples show slight darkening or uneven color due to age and handling. Your description notes that the coin has some scratches, which is quite common for a circulated coin of this age, as pennies were heavily used in everyday transactions. Being in extra fine condition, your coin shows light wear on the highest points of Lincoln's portrait, such as his cheekbone and jawline, but all major details are still sharp and well-defined. The lettering and date remain bold and legible, and the wheat stalks on the reverse side are crisp, with only minor smoothing. This condition is considerably better than most circulated examples, and it shows that your coin has been handled gently over the years. In terms of value in today's market, the 1957 D penny is not considered rare because of its high mintage, but condition, color, and surface quality can affect its worth. In average circulated condition, these coins are worth around 2 to 5 cents, mainly for their copper content and collector interest. However, in extra fine condition, the value rises slightly due to the coin's better preservation and eye appeal. A 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny in extra fine condition typically sells for $0.10 to $0.12 on the current collector market. If the coin retains more of its original red or reddish-brown luster, it could be valued a bit higher, around $0.25 to $0.30. Examples with full original red coloration that are graded and encapsulated by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can command even higher prices, sometimes $5 to $15 or more, depending on the exact grade, based on your description of a coin in extra fine condition with some scratches. The realistic market value today is about $0.15 to $0.25. Although its monetary value is modest, your 1957 D wheat penny carries real historical charm. It represents the final chapter of the classic Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which ended just 1 year later in 1958. In 1959, the U.S. Mint replaced the wheat design with the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, commemorating the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. That change marked the end of an era, making coins like yours the last of a proud and beloved design that ran for nearly 50 years. The 1957 D penny also has historical significance because it was minted during a time of great change and optimism in America. The post-war boom of the 1950s. It circulated during the Eisenhower era when the U.S. was experiencing economic growth, industrial expansion, and a rising middle class. Many people from that generation still remember using these copper wheat pennies in everyday life, making them nostalgic treasures even today. When it comes to preserving your coin, it's best not to clean it, even if it looks dirty or has scratches. Cleaning can remove the natural toning and damage the coin's surface, which can actually lower its value. Instead, handle it by the edges to avoid leaving fingerprints and store it in a dry, acid-free holder or a plastic coin flip designed for long-term protection. Keeping it in a low-humidity environment will help prevent tarnish and discoloration. The 1957 D Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny remains a highly recognizable and collectible coin that symbolizes both America's history and craftsmanship. Though it is not particularly rare, it holds sentimental and educational value. It connects collectors to the long tradition of Lincoln cents and to the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself, one of the most admired presidents in U.S. history. Next up, the 1952 Abraham Lincoln Wheat Penny with the S mint mark is a small but meaningful piece of American history. Even though it's not among the rarest Lincoln cents, it remains a favorite among collectors because it comes from the final years of the famous Wheat Penny series. Every coin from this era tells its own story, and this 1952 S penny is no exception. The S mint mark below the date on the front of the coin stands for the San Francisco Mint, where this coin was struck. In 1952, the San Francisco Mint produced around 137 million wheat pennies, far fewer than the Denver or Philadelphia mints that same year. That slightly lower mintage makes the 1952 S issue a bit scarcer, and it's often considered one of the more interesting coins from the 1950s for collectors, trying to complete a full set of Lincoln wheat cents. The obverse of the coin shows the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic design, and it quickly became one of the most beloved coin designs in American history. The reverse of the coin features two wheat stalks surrounding the words 1 cent, a design that represents hard work, unity, and the nation's agricultural roots. Now, let's talk about the condition of your coin. You mentioned that it's in dirty condition with some scratches. That's very common for coins that have circulated for decades. Dirt, discoloration, and small surface marks happen naturally over time as a coin passes through countless hands. While that affects the appearance and collector value slightly, it doesn't take away from the historical charm or the story behind it. In the world of coin collecting, condition plays a big role in determining value. A dirty or circulated 1952 wheat penny generally falls into the lower end of the value scale, especially if the details are still visible, but there are scratches or corrosion. In today's coin market, such a coin usually sells for about 5 to 10 cents. That's a modest value, but it's still more than its face value and shows that collectors continue to appreciate these coins. If the same 1952 penny were in better condition, say, fine or extremely fine, it might sell for 20 to 50 cents. And in uncirculated condition, with full red color and no wear, the value increases significantly, ranging from $1 to $5. Certified high-grade red examples in mint state, MS65 or higher, can bring $20 to $50 or more at auctions, especially if they show strong luster and no marks. The highest graded examples have even reached over $100, though those are rare. Still, even in dirty or worn condition, your 1952 penny is worth keeping. It's part of American coinage history and one of the last wheat pennies produced before the design changed to the Lincoln Memorial Reverse in 1959. The 1950s coins represent the closing chapter of the wheat penny era. A design that had served the nation for half a century. When you hold your 1952 penny, you're holding a piece of the early 1950s, a time when the United States was growing rapidly after World War II. These coins circulated during the Korean War years, through the post-war boom, and through an era when a penny still had real purchasing power. Many people who grew up in that time remember using wheat pennies every day, long before they became collectibles. Collectors today often look for 1952 pennies to complete their sets, especially since San Francisco mint coins tend to have nice strikes and attractive color. Even if a coin is dirty, it can often be gently cleaned and preserved properly. Though collectors usually prefer to leave old coins in their original natural state rather than polishing them, which can actually reduce value, the important thing is that your coin, even with its scratches and dirt, has survived for more than 70 years and still carries the image of one of America's greatest presidents. It's a small link to the past, a reminder of how everyday objects can become pieces of history over time. So if you have a 1952 wheat penny like this one, don't overlook it just because it looks old or worn. It might not be rare or expensive, but it's a genuine collectible that represents an important part of American coin heritage. Whether it's worth a few cents or a few dollars, it's still a treasured artifact that connects the present with the past. Next up, the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is one of the most recognizable and historically rich coins from mid-20th century America. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at that time, this coin is a wonderful piece of U.S. numismatic history that connects directly to the closing years of World War II. 2. Despite being common in circulation, its historical context and classic design make it a valuable keepsake for collectors and coin enthusiasts alike. This penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a rich reddish-brown tone that deepens naturally over time. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams, has a plain edge, and measures 19 millimeters in diameter. Many examples from this era develop a soft brown or dark tone due to oxidation and natural aging, which is perfectly normal and often adds to the coin's character. Your coin is described as being in very fine condition with some scratches, which means it retains a good amount of original detail but shows moderate wear from circulation. On the obverse, you can expect to see clear definition in Lincoln's two hair, beard, and coat, though with slight flattening on the highest points. The date and lettering are bold and fully legible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks are well defined, though the fine grain lines may be partially worn down. The small scratches you mention are typical for circulated coins of this age and do not significantly reduce its overall appeal or value. In terms of value, the 1945 Lincoln wheat penny is not rare because of its high production numbers. The Philadelphia Mint struck over $515,000 of these coins, more than 1 billion, making it one of the most common wheat pennies of the 1940s. However, condition, color, and surface quality can influence how much collectors are willing to pay. In the current collector market, a 1945 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark typically sells for around 5 to 10 cents in good to fine condition. In very fine condition, like your coin, the value generally ranges from $0.10 to $0.20. Coins that are extremely fine may be worth $0.10 to $0.35, while uncirculated examples with full red luster can fetch between $0.75 and $2, depending on quality. Professionally graded examples that retain strong original mint shine may reach $5 to $10 or more. Based on your description, very fine condition with some scratches, a fair market value today would be around $0.15 to $0.20, while the monetary value is small. The historical and sentimental significance of your 1945 Lincoln penny is much greater. This coin was minted in the year the world witnessed the end of World War II. American troops returned home, wartime production shifted back to consumer goods, and the nation began a period of rebuilding and prosperity. Pennies like this one were used by millions of Americans during that pivotal year, perhaps to buy a loaf of bread, a newspaper announcing victory, or a small treat for a returning soldier. Every mark and scratch on your coin tells part of that story. The wheat penny design, introduced in 1909 for the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, became one of the most iconic in U.S. coinage. Lincoln was the first real person ever featured on a regular U.S. coin, and his portrait was chosen to symbolize integrity, unity, and the American spirit. The coin's simplicity and elegance helped it remain in circulation for nearly 50 years before being replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial design. Your 1945 penny also represents the final chapter of wartime coinage, which had seen significant experimentation just 2 years earlier. In 1943, pennies were made of steel coated with zinc to save copper for the war effort. However, the steel since rusted easily and confused people because they looked like dimes, so the mint returned to copper in 1944 using recycled shell casings from the war. The 1945 penny continued that tradition. Quite literally, your coin may have been struck from metal that once helped win the war. To preserve your 1945 Lincoln penny, it's important not to clean it. Cleaning can scratch the surface, alter its natural color, and reduce its collector value. Instead, handle it gently by the edges, avoiding direct contact with the face of the coin to prevent oils from your fingers from causing discoloration. Store it in a dry, acid-free coin holder or a plastic coin flip to protect it from humidity, which can cause corrosion or spotting over time. Even though its market value may be modest, the 1945 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny is a timeless artifact of American history. It represents resilience, victory, and hope during a time when the entire world was emerging from conflict. Every collector, appreciates these coins not just for their design, but for what they symbolize: the perseverance and optimism of a nation led by one of its greatest presidents. Next up, the 1941 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is one of the most recognizable coins from the early 1940s. Even though it's not rare, it holds a special place in American coin history. It's a coin that's been handled by millions of people through decades of everyday life. Yet today, it's cherished by collectors as one of the classic Lincoln wheat cents that connects directly to America's wartime era. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and that's why it doesn't have any mint mark below the date. The Philadelphia Mint produced an enormous number of these coins in 1941, more than 887 million in total, making it one of the most common wheat pennies of that decade. Still, even though it's common, every 1941 penny has a story to tell, especially those that have survived in good condition for over 80 years. Now let's talk about your coin's condition. You mentioned it's in good condition with some scratches, which means it shows moderate wear, but still has visible details like Lincoln's face, the date, and the wheat stalks on the back. In coin grading, good is one of the lower circulated grades, but it still represents a solid collectible piece. The scratches might reduce its appeal slightly to collectors, but the coin's historical value remains. In today's coin market, a 1941 Lincoln wheat penny from Philadelphia in good condition typically sells for around 5 to 15 cents. If the coin is in better condition, such as very fine or extremely fine, the value can rise to 25 to 50 cents. In uncirculated mint state condition, the value jumps even higher, often between $2 and $5 for bright red examples, and certified high-grade specimens can sell for $15, $20, or even more depending on their color and sharpness. The most perfect, top-graded examples have even reached over $100 at major auctions. The 1941 penny also marks an important time in U.S. history. It was struck just before America entered World War II, a time of global uncertainty. Many of these coins circulated throughout the war years, used by Americans buying food, stamps, and supplies. They were part of the nation's daily life during one of its most defining decades. That connection to the wartime era makes even a worn example like yours meaningful to collectors and history enthusiasts alike. It's also worth noting that in 1941, the U.S. Mint improved its production quality. The coins from that year often have sharper details and cleaner strikes than earlier dates. Collectors appreciate that, especially when looking for well-defined examples of the wheat stalks and Lincoln's features. Even though the 1941 Philadelphia penny is not considered rare, it's still a beloved collectible because it represents a turning point both in American history and in the evolution of the Lincoln cent series. For many beginner collectors, finding a 1941 penny is one of the first exciting discoveries that leads them deeper into the hobby. If your coin has scratches and wear, don't worry, that's part of its journey. Many collectors like to keep these circulated examples as part of a complete set, showing how the design has aged naturally over time. Coins like this also remind us that value isn't always about money. Sometimes it's about the story, the age, and the connection to history. If you ever come across a 1941 wheat penny in uncirculated condition, shiny, red, and with no marks, it's definitely worth setting aside or even having graded professionally. But even your circulated coin, in good condition, still carries a small collector's premium and a big dose of nostalgia for the pre-war era. So the next time you see that brown copper penny with Abraham Lincoln's profile and no mint mark under the date, remember it's more than just a coin. It's a small piece of America's past, struck at a time when the world was changing rapidly, and it has managed to survive all the way to today. Next up, the 1937 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark is another classic example of early 20th century American coinage, a small copper coin that carries nearly 90 years of history. Though it's not considered rare, It's one of the well-loved coins among collectors because of its age, design, and connection to an important era in American life. Your coin from 1937, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, represents a time when the United States was slowly coming out of the Great Depression and preparing for a new decade of change. The lack of a mint mark beneath the date means your coin was made at the Philadelphia Mint, which produced more than 309 million wheat pennies that year, one of the higher mintages of the 1930s. Because so many were made, the 1937 penny is not hard to find, but condition makes a huge difference in its value. The fact that your coin is in extra fine condition means it has survived very well over time, and that's where its true appeal lies. The obverse side of the coin features the timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design was introduced in 1909, and by 1937 it had already become one of the most iconic coin designs in U.S. history. The mighty reverse shows two wheat stalks framing the denomination. 1 cent, symbolizing prosperity and hard work, values that resonated deeply during the Depression years. Even after decades of circulation, this design still feels powerful and meaningful. In extra fine condition, your 1937 Lincoln wheat penny would show only light wear on the high points of Lincoln's cheek and jawline, with most of the fine details in his hair and the wheat ears still visible. The coin might have a few small scratches or marks from handling, which is normal for its age, but overall, the detail remains sharp and attractive. That level of preservation makes it a desirable piece for collectors who like high-quality circulated coins. In today's collector market, the value of a 1937 Lincoln wheat penny without a mint mark in extra fine condition generally ranges between 50 cents and $1. If the coin has excellent color and strong eye appeal, it might reach up to $2. In higher grades, such as about uncirculated or uncirculated, prices can rise significantly, anywhere from $5 to $15 for nice examples with strong red-brown or full red color. Certified mint state coins graded MS-65 or higher can fetch $40 to $100, and top-graded bright red examples have sold for over $200 at major auctions. Of course, for a circulated coin with some light scratches, like yours, the value stays modest, but it still represents a very collectible and historically rich piece. Many collectors value these 1930s Lincoln cents not for their rarity, but for their age, their design, and the story they tell. This was a coin that circulated in a time when a single penny could actually buy something meaningful. Perhaps a stick of gum, a postage stamp, or a few pieces of candy. The 1937 penny also carries emotional value because of the time period it represents. America was finally beginning to recover from the economic hardships of the Great Depression, and coins like this were part of everyday life for families across the country. Each one passed through countless hands, helping to build the economy and connecting ordinary people to the spirit of hope and perseverance that defined that era. Even though the 1937 wheat penny isn't rare, it remains a must-have for anyone collecting Lincoln cents. It fits perfectly into mid-series collections and is often found in coin albums that span from the early 1909 VDB issue to the final 1958 wheatback. For new collectors, the 1937 penny is a great way to own a genuine pre-World War II coin without spending a lot of money, while experienced collectors appreciate it as a well-made coin that has stood the test of time. If you happen to find a 1937 penny in mint state red condition, it's worth holding on to, or even having graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. The jump in value between circulated and uncirculated coins is dramatic, and well-preserved examples continue to attract strong interest at auctions. But even with a few scratches and light wear, your 1937 Lincoln wheat penny is a small piece of history, a survivor of the 1930s that still carries the image of one of America's greatest presidents. It may not be worth a fortune, but it's a coin with heart, character, and a connection to the past that money can't replace. So when you look at your 1937 penny, remember that it's more than just copper. It's a witness to history, a piece that has lived through nearly a century of change. From the Great Depression to the modern day, it has survived, telling the story of the people who once used it in their daily lives. Thank you for watching and learning about another classic Lincoln Wheat penny. If you enjoy discovering the stories and values behind historic U.S. coins, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos. And keep checking your old pennies. You never know when a little coin like the 1937 wheat penny could turn out to be a small treasure with a big story.